This is Jim with Twisted Hobbies. Today, we're going to be building the Extra NG. Okay guys, today we're building the Extra NG. You'll see my package doesn't have a label on it. I don't have a manual yet because this is a prototype, but I do have my power combo, which consists of my motor, my ESC, my propellers, and my D10M servos. We're going with 4 of those. Then we have a receiver, and we have my trusty foam tack. Had some foam tack this morning for breakfast. I'm just kidding, don't eat foam tack.
Okay, the first thing we're going to do is empty out our box and take out all of our surfaces that need to be folded over. That's going to be our ailerons, our elevator, and our rudder. I'll just put some weight on them. I've got some batteries laying around, so I'll just do that. And we leave them like that for about an hour. Then we'll put down some parchment paper. I'll grab the wing spar, the horizontal fuselage, and my 2 wings. I'm going to dry fit everything. That looks good. Maybe I need a little room on the ends, so I'll give it just a little more room. Now we're going to glue the wings on. So I put some foam tack on, I press it together, and then I'll pull it apart for about 20 or 30 seconds, and then give it a final press together. Now we're ready to fill the slot with glue, and insert our wing spar, and push it all the way down. And then we'll be sure just to keep it flat while it dries. Next up is going to be our horizontal stabilizer and elevator. We're going to glue that in place just like the wings, and then I measure from wingtip to tail tip to make sure that that is equal on both sides. Then we'll move on to dry fitting our elevator spars and then glue them into place. And once those are dry, we are ready for the bottom half of the vertical fuselage. So I'm going to apply foam tack all the way down the length of it and press it into place. Then I'll grab my square, and then I'm going to measure for square all the way down the length, and then let that dry. Next, we'll glue on the aileron strut supports. Now, before we can glue in these aileron struts, we're going to need to assemble the X-brace, which is this piece right here. And I would make sure you get glue around the edge of the X-brace, and then we'll screw it together. And we'll also put in the legs for the landing gear at this point as well. And when you screw this part together, make note that the screws do go in from opposite sides. I had to go and fix that on mine. Once that's fastened, I recommend pushing these aileron struts halfway into the vertical fuselage in a little V-shaped part, and then gluing it down into the wing. Next up, we'll be dry fitting and then gluing in the bracing for the horizontal and vertical fuselage. And once again, measure for square. And then we'll find and cut apart our end braces. We'll put them into place, give it a dry fit, and then glue them in. Then we'll be tightening in the grub screws onto the end braces. And then we'll get started on the top half of the vertical fuselage. Give it a dry fit, spread glue along the length, push it into place, and use your square to make sure that it's coming together at 90 degrees. Then we can glue on our motor mount. And when we glue on our rudder, you want to make sure it's equal distance from each side. It goes right in the middle of the horizontal fuselage, and as this dries, I like to prop up the end of it off of the table a little so you're not putting pressure on the rudder. Then we can mount and glue in place our side force generators. And then we'll dry fit and mount our control horns for our ailerons, our elevator, and our rudder. Then I'm ready to start mounting servos, but before that we should get out all the electronics bind our receiver, calibrate our ESC, center our servos, and verify motor direction. There's a whole video on this in a link in the description if you want more detail on this process. Then I add a spare piece of carbon fiber for the tail skid. And then we're ready to glue on our servo holders. And next up is going to be our servo horn extensions. And for these servo horn extensions, I just use a small screw to affix them to the stock servo horn, and then the excess that comes out the back, we're just going to clip that off with some diagonal cutters. Also, while we're here, I would hold off on screwing these onto the servos themselves, wait until later so that way we can put on the end links. We place the servos into the servo holders, and then just a couple more screws to fix them in place. Here on the elevator and rudder servos, I put mine in facing forward. I would recommend flipping them over and facing them backward. That way your push rods will be plenty long. I'm going to cut a hole down through the fuselage so that way I can feed all the wires down to the lower left side of the plane, because that's where I have my receiver and that's where they're all going to plug in. And as I said before, I would have waited to put on the servo horns until after I put the end links on them, because I'm just going to have to take off all the servo horns right now to do the end links. I tried a little bit, it didn't work, so I went ahead and took it off and then used my little block that I have here. That really helps to be able to press through the little clip. Okay, now all those end links are installed and we're working on our push rods. First, we'll cut these little white pieces and install them over our carbon fiber so it's a nice snug fit inside the clevis. And then we'll add a little bit of CA. And since I was already doing it, I went ahead and did this for the elevator and rudder push rods as well. Now we're going to install those aileron push rods, and they have a little brass pin. And then we're going to set them neutral and then tighten up the end links on the servo horns. I trim those off and then I put a little bit of CA on the end. Then we'll cut apart our push rod guides and install those on each side. And you'll also see right here my push rod is just barely long enough. I should have just swapped my servo around the other direction and then I would have had plenty of room. Okay, I've got my push rods in place and now we're going to glue in all of the push rod guides. Now we're ready to put the final touches on the landing gear. And I'm going to be using a pin vise to open up the wheels and a couple other pieces here. And here we're going to be placing the axles onto the support, the wheels on the axles, and then the pants stiffener to finish up the entire assembly. Then we'll glue on our pants and attach everything to the landing gear. Then we can screw our motor into the motor mount. And this seems like a great time to glue on our canopy. So we dry fit it, make sure everything looks good, put some glue on it, get it into place, and press it down. Pretty straightforward. And to set the center of gravity, we're going to go 206 millimeters back from the front of the motor mount. That distance will get us in the ballpark, but I realized I forgot the propeller. So let's balance a propeller. This one took a few tries, but it is always worth it because it makes it spin so smoothly. And then next up is me tidying all of my wiring. I do want to run the servo wire underneath the vertical fuselage to the other side. So I cut a little slot in and was able to slide it through. I also pushed the battery connector up through the fuselage as well. So that way it'll be on the top right side of the plane. That's where I like to put mine. And then I do some general tidying up of all of the servo wires and the receiver and get it all neatly tucked away. Let's put some Velcro on for my batteries. And we'll give it one final test on the CG. And now we're done with the build, so let's give it a maiden flight. First thing I noticed is that it's a little windy today, so we're going to be fighting against the wind this entire time, but that's okay. We can handle a little wind. And the model itself felt incredibly stable. It's not doing any wing rocking when doing Harriers or anything like that. For loops, it's nice and stable. It doesn't want to fall off either way. It felt really solid. I spent a little bit of time here trimming out the model. I had to give it a couple clicks of rudder because I knew that was going to be off. And other than that, she is flying great. I'll have to experiment more with seeing how to get it just into knife edge spin because I know it'll do it, but it takes a little bit to figure out exactly how to tickle the sticks to get every model to do what you want it to do. The big thing I notice on this model is the stability that it has. It definitely handles wind better than some of the smaller models, and it feels much stiffer. I think because it has the thicker fuselage, it really wants to stay where you put it. So when it's in knife edge, it likes to stay in knife edge, feels nice and stable. When it's in Harrier, it doesn't move around a lot. It just likes to do the Harrier. So stability, huge on this. This is a prototype, so I am doing a little bit of testing, and there's some things on it that I need to adjust here and there because as every prototype goes, we're going to have to do some adjustments. On this maiden flight, I'm kind of taking it easy, both because I've got a good amount of wind coming for me, and I'm also trying not to pile in this prototype on its first flight. So you'll see here during my knife edge maneuver, it really likes to stay right where you put it. Super smooth all the way through these maneuvers. The Vertex power combo on this has plenty of power. I am running this on 3S, and it seems to really like that nicely. I check my time here. I give it another launch, and let's bring it down into a spin. A nice lazy flat spin. Everything's feeling very precise and predictable. As far as comparing this to other models, I'd say it feels like the big brother of a Crack Yak that's a little more mature and a little more stable. So it really helps out in maneuvers like the rolling Harrier or slow roll, because it's not quite as twitchy and it's a little heavier, so it carries a little more momentum through the maneuvers. And thank you for sticking around for my incredibly boring maiden flight. I did want you guys to be able to see what the capabilities of the airframe really are. So this is a kid that's at my flying field who is a beast on the sticks, and he didn't take it easy on it at all. So enjoy some of his flying. And remember, if you guys have any questions on the build, you can always ask in the comments. We're really good about getting back to everyone. And while you're at it, leave a comment and tell us where you're from. Well, thanks again, guys, and I hope the build video helped you, and I hope you enjoy flying your Extra NG as much as I do.